What's going on, everyone, and welcome to this week's vegan news. Australia is opening a new sheep slaughterhouse. It's gonna kill for 24 hours.
Don't
tell
worry,
them.
I will tell
Don't
them.
forget. Tell them.
You can go.
Sorry about that, but without making you wait any longer, let's get to the news. In Victoria, Australia, a new sheep slaughterhouse is going to open. They're going to be working for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, killing 3,000 sheep every single day. Another bad news is the site approval to export trotters to China. In the UK, 6 slaughterhouses are going to be exporting pig legs all the way to China. And apparently, this isn't anything new. China and other developing countries are consuming more and more animal products because of globalization and capitalism, and they happen to be the biggest market of pig flesh for the UK, to the point that almost 1/3 of the UK production of pig-related animal products is sent all the way to China. 1/3. Can you imagine the massive environmental impact that this has on the environment in the UK, plus shipping it all the way to China? This is something like that should be talked about. The citizens should have the right to know and be aware that these things are happening, because if people knew the amount of impact that this is having on their own country, on their own environment, I think they would not be so happy about this. Even if they themselves are consumers of pig products or other animal flesh, it doesn't take away from the fact that they're going to be paying the price of what a few people are doing, which is making millions of dollars on the back of the animals, sending dead animals all the way to China. This week, honestly, we have only 3 bad news, but in my opinion, they're quite bad ones. Like, just because there are only 3 doesn't mean it was a good week. This one is the fact that Malaysia is about to open its biggest dairy farm with the help of Qatar. This farm is going to have 10,000 cows that are going to produce over 50 million liters of milk by 2021. You know what's the worst part? In the next 2 years, they're planning to double the production of dairy milk in Malaysia. See, this is why I say that we as vegan activists should try our best to always support vegan companies instead of non-vegan companies. If you have the option to buy from a vegan company, a vegan milk, do that. Don't support a non-vegan company thinking that your support is gonna make them ditch dairy. They're just gonna use the profit to do other things. Is dairy consumption dropping in some Western countries? Of course it is. Is it rising more than ever in other countries? Of course it is. Why? Because any company that is in the dairy industry that also produces dairy milk is gonna use at one point or another the profit they're making from vegan products so that they can start boosting their non-vegan products. This is simple business. Although the bad news were quite harsh, I want to start with something very important when it comes to the good news. An activist in Switzerland who had been imprisoned for 11 months under literally no accusation, just because they thought he was taking part in anti-species actions like breaking the window of a butcher shop or something like that. He has just been released finally after 11 months. He happens to be a person of color, and a lot of people are saying that that was also another reason why his sentence was so harsh. I mean, it wasn't really a sentence because he was never judged for it. They just detained him and he spent 11 months in jail. He's never been accused of anything officially. He doesn't have a real official sentence, and he just lost 11 months of his life behind the bars just because the industry probably wanted to show that they can play their game of power as well. I'm just really happy that Matthias is finally out. I can't imagine how tough this time has been for him, for his loved ones, for his family, for his friends. But at the end of the day, I wanted to start the good news with what I think was the best news this week. Another good news that I think is actually really amazing is the fact that Ikea is not gonna be serving meat for Christmas this year. So they're gonna ditch the turkey-based meals that they were preparing so far, and they're gonna replace that with a vegan meal. Now, the reason why I think this is so amazing is because millions of people are eating at IKEA restaurants, and even though you think like, what, that's just like a furniture mall or whatever you want to call it, the amount of people that buy animal products in IKEA is so big that a switch like this that kind of obligates a non-vegan to eat a vegan meal if they're gonna have this Christmas meal or whatever, I think is massive. And again, as I always say, it normalizes veganism. Ikea is like the most random place. It's the most like mainstream shop, let's say, and for them to do something like this could have a massive impact on the mentality of the customers. The next good news is that Walmart just banned live fish sales. So Walmart was selling live fish in more than 1,700 stores around the country, and they accounted for like 30% of the national sales of live fish, and they just decided to stop doing this. And is it a huge victory? I wouldn't say so. Are they gonna still continue selling other types of fish products? No. Is that bad? Yes. Is it good that they stopped selling the live fish? Definitely yes. The next great news, Macy's and Bloomingdale's just banned fur. So I was reading this and I was really interested in knowing what made them do this. You know, a lot of companies, for example, whether it's IKEA replacing their turkey meal with a vegan meal or university dropping beef and things like that, they do it for environmental reasons. But when it comes to Macy's and Bloomingdale's, the victory, let's say, was because of the hard work of animal rights organizations like Humane Society and PETA. And although I'm not the biggest fan of especially Humane Society because they're so welfarist, I do have to acknowledge that they did a good job. See, corporate outreach, corporate activism is very important because when these chains are dropping their fur products, their fur lines, it is gonna make customers think, why would they do this? You know, if you are a customer who goes there weekly or monthly, and then you realize that your favorite brand, let's say your shop, is dropping fur, that's probably gonna make you unconsciously think that you would also be against fur, and you're just gonna stick to buying faux fur if you wanna buy something like that. Now, this ban doesn't really mean that they're gonna stop selling other type of animal skin. They will still sell sheepskin, leather, products like that, but it is important to note that a lot of brands have already dropped fur. That includes Versace, Gucci, Prada, Chanel, and for them to do it as well is a great news that I want to share with you. Another great news is the Cancer Research UK Centre saying that people should take the veg pledge so that they can avoid having cancer. Now, obviously, they did also say try to cut down if you're consuming a lot of meat and processed meats and things like that. But for them to also say, you know, during the month of November, if you can go vegan, you should do it. I think they also said you give vegan or vegetarian, but obviously vegetarianism can still cause cancer, especially when it comes to dairy. But at least when they say like you should also go vegan to reduce your chances of having cancer, and it's coming from such a big organization like Cancer Research UK that a lot of people take seriously and listen to out of fear because they've probably lost someone to cancer, they probably had cancer in the past. It's really great, and it will make people really think like, okay, Cancer Research UK doesn't really have like an agenda, a vegan agenda, what some people are afraid of. So if they're saying that we're gonna do it, maybe we'll just like not have such a high possibility of getting cancer. I do want to quote them on one thing, and they said when you cut down on meats, there's more room on your plate for high fiber foods like veg, whole grains, and pulses like lentils and beans, which are all high fiber foods that reduce the risk of cancer. So they didn't only say like take it out from your plate when it comes to meat and processed meat. They also suggested that you replace that with vegan food, with plant-based foods. Now, the last good news, I left it for the last part because it is quite a good news. It kind of has a negative part inside, but we'll talk about that. Turns out the dairy industry in the UK has lost one farmer per week. Now, this is a great news because it means less farmers are staying in this industry because of the consumption of dairy products is going down. But obviously, we also have to think about the farmer himself. If they are stepping out of the business, what is happening to them? What is happening to their families? Are they surviving easily afterwards? Are they able to find another job easily? This is when, again, I know I mention them every single time, but I'm going to do it again. Vegan Justice League doing an amazing work, not in the UK, but in the States, trying to make it possible for farmers who want to transition from their horrible businesses to non-animal agriculture business to get support from the government, from the subsidies. So I'm not really sure if that's already happening in the UK, but we have to think about this because we have to help farmers come out of this industry. If they're losing so much money, if they're sick of their job, they don't like what they're doing, they're just born in that family, they should have a support system. Now, your favorite part, the weird news. The US Air Force is gonna start serving Beyond Burgers in their bases. I repeat, the US Air Force is gonna start serving vegan burgers in their bases. Okay, so we can look at this from different angles. Okay, the environmental part and the ethical part. And as good as this sounds, none of it makes sense. If they are doing it for ethical reasons, we will probably have to put a title that goes like this. The US Air Force will serve vegan burgers to not kill non-human animals when they are flying around the world killing human animals. I mean, it goes without saying that the US Air Force has absolutely no ethics. They have bombarded civilian areas, they have used drones to kill innocent people, children, parents, bomb civilian houses. All around the world, they've done the most ridiculous things that you wouldn't even imagine that human beings would do. But hey, they care about cows. Now, the second part, environmentally speaking, let's imagine this is a move they're doing to be more environmental friendly. Well, did you know that the US military pollutes more than 100 countries combined? 100 different countries pollute so much, alright? You can imagine how much that is. Put that all together, it's not gonna be as much of a polluter as the US military. So for them to try to greenwash themselves to go like, oh, we serve vegan burgers now because we care about the environment. No, that's not gonna work, man. So even though the Defense Department reduced their fossil fuel consumption in the 2000s, they still remain the single largest consumer of oil. But, as I said again, they care about the environment. That's why they're serving vegan burgers. Come on, man. Another weird news, Manchester City just goes vegan with the help of Nestle. So apparently the football club Manchester City is gonna be selling vegan products with their new partner Nestle, who does have like a sub company that makes vegan products. And yeah, this is really great. They're gonna be selling this in their stadiums, you know, and that is absolutely amazing because people will be consuming that. But Nestle? Really? Nestle? Have you heard about Nestle and what they do and what their ethics or lack of ethics are? Let's start naming some of the things that they've done. 1. They went to less developed countries and started trying to convince people that their milk is almost as good as the breast milk of a mother to feed to newborn babies. That's what they did. They tried to brainwash these innocent people who didn't have like the best access to education, that them buying Nestle products to give as milk to their kids, to their newborn babies, is probably just as good as them directly breastfeeding their babies. 2. Nestle is the biggest bottled water producer, and while they're producing bottled water, when we say produce, they're taking it from places without having the permit to do so. And they just go around bottling water from places where people don't have enough power to stand against them, and then selling and making millions, if not billions of dollars every single month. 3. Child labor and slavery. Nestle recently said that they can't confirm that their chocolate products don't involve child slavery or child labor. Yeah, 2019 everyone, and Nestle says they can't confirm whether or not there were slaves working on their products. This is literally only 3 of the things that they're known for. I could go on, I could probably make a whole video on Nestle. Maybe I should. And talk about what they've done. But I'm gonna stop here and go on to the next weird news, which also happens to be the last one. So a heavy meat eater and a chef, Ruiz, who used to mock vegans and vegetarians wearing a t-shirt that says 0% vegetarian while holding animal flesh in front of him, has just died of a heart attack at 44 years old. This man who was mocking vegans who stand up for the rights of animals, who was mocking animals, taking pictures with their dead bodies because society made that the norm, has just suffered the consequences of what he was doing and what people told him is the norm of what the animal agriculture industry has been doing for the past decades, alright? Am I celebrating that someone who used to mock vegans and animals died because of a heart attack? Of course not. I'm not celebrating anybody's death. I'm actually quite upset that someone so young has to die of something so stupid because he was so brainwashed, and his loved ones and family members are gonna be suffering this loss as well. So if you're someone who usually makes fun of vegans, usually makes fun of animals who are dying unnecessarily, maybe you should wonder if you're doing the right thing before you get a heart attack at 44 years old as well. So that's it for this week. That was one hell of a week, man. Yeah, I know. Tell me, my God, it was really, yeah. Can you just leave? Like, I can't do this when you're here. Yeah, please.
See you next week.
Yeah, I'll see you in the next video as well. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. I'll see you next week. If you want to support my work, check out my Patreon, where you can pledge anywhere from $1 a month, or my website, ethicsofhabits.com, if you want to get vegan t-shirts or merchandise. I'll see you in the next video. Please don't forget to like and subscribe.